Hey everybody, welcome to, well, we're going to call this, it's a Color Your World, but it has a little bit of Painting Impossible. Now, on my channel, Rob's Tabletop World, I had covered this really unique situation I ran into. And the whole point of this particular episode is to talk about some 3D printing and some of the challenges you might go through. And to be very wary about buying some miniatures from people that reproduce things at 3D printing. I'm going to show you the struggles that I went through taking care of a good friend of mine and someone that I'm sure you all know, the Game Boy Geek, Dan King, and his friend Kat, otherwise known as Glory Hog on Twitter, I believe. Well, they had gone to Gen Con and they had, well, basically had these pieces made for them. They paid quite a bit of money. Well, after 6 months, they finally got the pieces, and Dan took a look at it, and he's not a modeler, and he didn't know what to do with it, so he asked if I would help him out. And here is the story of how it all transpired. So let's go down, take a look. Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this is open and that you guys don't get Dan's address. That would be bad. We're going to take this out, and I really want to show you what's going on here. And this is what they paid an amount of money for. And I mean, look at that. How the hell are we supposed to fix that? This should not all be here. This molding is ridiculous, and how are we supposed to chip away? And then on top of it, there's no base. Now, this is Dan King, as you know, our good friend, and this is Kat. You may have seen her on Board Game, I'm not Board Game Geek, on the Dice Tower. She does a segment on, oh goodness me, I think it's on Board Game Breakfast, if I'm not 100% sure. Now, we really got a tough, project here. I mean, we have to try to clean this up. We're going to have to make our own base because, they paid good money for this. And look at these mold lines. I mean, it looks like construction here. Not only that, I mean, just to go a little further, I mean, look, it all goes in the back. I mean, this is not how it's supposed to be. And they don't even have a base on him. I'm hoping that you guys are able to see that his feet are underneath here. So the first thing that I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to cut this apart. All right? Because we want to kind of keep Kat by herself for a little bit. All right? And I told Dan that we would film this. And the reason I'm filming it is because this was at Gen Con, and it was in... All right, I think, oh boy, I mean, this is very brittle stuff. So cleaning this up is going to be quite the undertaking. Now, how many of you that went to Gen Con saw this booth right near where, all right, so here's Kat before I go any further. Wow, this is not going to be easy because, boy, you got to be careful because there's going to be a lot of filing involved. And that's what really has me worried is, am I going to lose some of the detail that we're trying to get? Here's her beautiful hair. I mean, she really has nice hair. And then she has that red streak, if you guys remember who Kat is. So we're going to try to reenact that. But boy, I think we could get a little better detail on that. All right, so we're going to put that, we're going to concentrate on Dan. And you got to be careful here. And I actually have to put down my glasses because this is so close to the vest here that you got to be careful. You don't want to cut the actual miniature because if you cut the actual miniature itself, you're done. So we're going to try to clean this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue. How many of you went where Lucas Oil Stadium, if you went underneath the parking lot, saw this where you can make your own miniature? And how many of you got them back looking like this? That's what I want to know. So please put it in the comments because, boy, I'm not going to suggest this, but boy, this is really, really something else. I mean, look at that. You think they at least clean it up and put it on a base and say, hey, here you go. You painted, you're on your own. But we're going to try to clean it up, and we're going to try to paint it, and we're going to try to make sure that we get Dan. Yeah, look at that. Look at that mold line right under his chin. Just really, really poor. I don't know if you guys can see that. Underneath his chin here, there's actually like dripped plastic. So I don't want to lose his chin here. So we're going to have to clean this up because, this was really important to Dan. And it's really disappointing that this came this way. And I'm going to try my best to clean it up. So I'm gonna come back periodically, and we're going to try to get this cleaned up. All right, after about a good 20 minutes, because you don't want to make a wrong cut, we were able to make a breakthrough and kind of got, as you can see, he has a sword here. I mean, we're trying to figure this out as you go because this is clear plastic. And again, every cut has to be precise. I mean, I've never seen anything this bad in my life. Now I'm just trying to get them off. And I'm just amazed at the poor quality. If anybody has gotten these, please let me know. I just don't think you should be, if this is a bad version of it or maybe a misprint or something, because honestly, you shouldn't give this to somebody, especially somebody that might be a novice, and say, hey, guess what? We can do this for you. Well, it doesn't look like you can. And wow, there's just a lot of cuts here. I'm trying to get as close as I can because you don't want to file away the detail. And I got my spectacles on, and they're helping a lot, thank goodness. There's a little. Oh, wow. Okay, I got it. Wow. Whew. All right, Dan, we're still doing good here. All right, so I'm going to keep cutting at this, and I'll be back in a few minutes, and we'll take a little farther look. Well, I'll tell you, I haven't made this many cuts since high school football. But honestly, this is just, I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've seen some things that I've molded. I've molded out of silicone better than this, and I think you guys saw that when we built the Death Star. And boy, oh boy, I mean, this has just been very difficult. There's a couple of things that really play a big part in this, and that is the fact that, number one, it's clear. It's a clear plastic. So you don't know if you're cutting detail or not, and you're praying that you're not. And I've been just taking my time, and this has taken me over an hour to get it to this. So, now we just have to kind of file things up a little bit, and even that is kind of difficult because this is a weird type of resin. It actually has a rubbery feel to it. So I really want to get this right and make sure that this figure comes out really good for Dan. You could see there are just tons and tons of cuts that I made to get it off. It doesn't even come with a base, which is kind of, I mean, what the heck? So, you see these guys next year, know that this is, you may want your own figure, but, this is not an easy thing. And some of these cuts, I mean, like right in the fur here, where it's kind of like critical that you really make sure that you get this just perfectly. And I'm still just kind of walking around here, just making sure that I'm making the right choices here. So this comes out perfectly, because we're going to paint this for Dan as well. And I want to make sure that we do a nice job, because we're even going to base these. I'm going to have to find a base, and I'm sure I can dig up a base somewhere. But we're gonna base it, and we're gonna flock it. We're gonna make it nice. We're gonna make it look like we're gonna make it look like Dan. How's that? So I'm gonna just keep chipping away at this, but I think we pretty much got it. We're just gonna have to sand this down. Now we've got to do Cat next, and wow, I mean, even she is very difficult because of now at least her, the real problem cuts are in this book area. So I really just got to be very focused. This one's a little bit better, but I wanted to do Dan first because I wanted to see how this plastic reacted, and I'm wondering if this will even take some primer. So we're gonna try that out. We're gonna come back in our next episode, and I'll have Kat all cleaned up. We got Dan here, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but that is Dan King, the Game Boy Geek miniature. So I'm going to get this all cleaned up. We're going to get this. We've got to make sure that we keep all that detail because he strictly told me that make sure those abs show. And I said, okay, Dan, I'll make sure of it. So there you go. Again, if you've had this problem and you went to Gen Con this year and you had a miniature made of me, first of all, let me know if you got it. And number two, let me know if you had some difficulty. Maybe I can help you through this series. So, just trying to pick out some of the detail here. And it's not the most detailed model, but his face is good enough where I think we can make something happen here. So, until next time, and for Dan and Kat, we're going to send it up top, and we're going to get on out of here. Boy, this is a Painting Impossible segment that is going to be remembered because you're going to learn about molds and how things work in the universe and how you have to get around it. But we really took our time. Our next move is take this file and just hit some of the high spots. We don't want to cut into the miniature and ruin the details. So I think we'll do that in our next episode. So until next time, we put the two bases on it. We got it pretty cleared up. The problem is that there is a line right here, and I'm going to have to take the X-Acto knife to it. This is not going to be easy because of where this line is, and I'm afraid that I'm going to cut some of her cloth. And it doesn't matter if I can see it. It's just trying to. There we go. We got it. How about that? All right. And boy, that was a nervous cut. A nervous cut. They had a little piece in there. See, this should have been cleaned up and sent to them. I don't know why, but we got Kat right where she wants to be. The detail on the face is not that great, so I don't understand the whole thing with this. But we're gonna clean this up a little bit more, and then we're gonna come back after I get these primed up. We're gonna try to do the best we can with these. So with these, it's just problem after problem. I took some of this stuff outside and I sprayed some primer on it, and it actually melted. So if I put it on these figures, which really don't have great detail, which I'm kind of disappointed in. So what I did is I took some Abaddon Black and used that as my primer. I went over and just got this on here, and now at least I can start working out a bit. But the detail, I've got a lot of work ahead of me on this one. So we're going to take this for the ride and see how far we can take it, and hopefully we can salvage this. I really believe it's a lot of false advertisement. I would not pay the money that they paid for these two, and I'm not going to tell you how much. You guys know who went there. I just couldn't believe this stuff melted. A good thing I decided to test it, or else I would have sprayed it on these things and they would have melted. And I used GW of all things. But just a rough ride here, so we're going to keep on going. So one of the things I've done is really just try to cover a lot of base coats, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to point out some of the things. I went with a corn red for a sash, a Santalarian for the leggings, lead belcher for the sword, retribution gold for the armbands and the two medallions. The thing I couldn't figure out was what the heck this was on his shoulder. It looks like some bone pieces, so I painted those bones, painted the skulls. There's a turtle shell here. We just put a base coat on. We put some very dark brown onto the boots so we can lighten up. Another Gorian brown, Gorfang brown for the just to kind of mark out the fur lining here. Kesla flesh, 2 coats so far. I didn't work on his hair. I'm going to work on that last after I get a wash and I start to pull some of the details. Really, really, really tough because there is no detail. That's the problem. These are supposed to be very detailed miniatures, and they're not. Just kind of worked very lightly with her. We ran with a oh god, what the heck did I use? I think I used a dark violet. No, a Nagarath Night. I really like this because I'm going to bring this out. I'm going to bring this all back. These are not how they're going to finish up. Right now I'm just kind of working a little bases around, and then I clean things up a little bit, and then I kind of get them where I want to go, and then I'm going to start bringing detail. We're going to darken and then work out light. The hard thing is that I was really hoping their faces were better sculpted, because I really wanted to try to do some things with their faces, but just not great miniatures for sure. We have a lot of work here, and we're going to keep on working away, but at least we're starting to get some base coats on here, and we'll work everything else around later. All right, we'll be back with another update soon. All right, so we're just about ready. There's a lot of work ahead of us. Really trying to pull the detail out is really difficult here. So I'm leaving certain base coats on, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take a Reichland Flesh Shade, especially for this figure here, to start to bring out some of the detail, hopefully, what little detail they do have. So I'm going to get on that, and let's get ready to do that. The real key here is making sure that you take the Flesh Shade, and even though you get it all over the place, we're going to be dry brushing a lot of things out. Now, with this, all I want to do is just try to create some detail here. And that's all I want to do. And just find out what I can really work on and really pull out here with this Flesh Shade. And I can just take and just go over the complete figure, because what it's going to do, it's going to sit in the recesses, which is perfectly fine by me. And I'm not worried about going over the metallics or anything like that. And his hair and stuff, I'm not going to be really doing. But what I want to try to do is pull out some of that. I want to darken his flesh and not make him look so pasty. And what really matters here is just getting this all over. We're going to do his hair and all that stuff, but just getting it all over the figure itself, because that's where it's going to sit. It's going to darken the figure down, so when I start what I really want to do, and that's pulling out a ton of detail, I'm going to be able to do that, because I'm going to be able to see where the detail. And it's a far cry right now from where we were with this not too long ago. We're going to let this dry, and you can see there's not a lot of detail in the facial structure, which is kind of worrisome. But we'll try to work on that, and we're going to work on pulling that out. But we are getting a little bit of detail here in the abdomen, the arms, over the chest area here, and we're just darkening up. Exactly what I wanted to do was just kind of darken up this fur in the back here, so I can really just take and start to bring it out a bit, because that's what we're going to try to do, is try to bring out this dimensionally. And there we go. And we want to make sure that we really have the chest piece here is really the important part that really is going to sell this figure, and that's where we really want to have our wash really settle into, and the rest we can really work with. All right, let's keep going here. Now right here with this cloak, all I'm trying to do is just take a little bit of a lighter color and just give it a little dimension, and trying to dig up some detail here, and it's very challenging in how we're doing this. Now we haven't even started working on her face or anything like that, but I'm trying to get the cloak at least where I feel a little more comfortable with it. And That hasn't been the easiest of things. And all I did was take a little of Gene Steeler purple and I mixed it with some skull white right here. Oops. I'll just put it up here there so you guys can see. And I'm just taking just a little bit of it and just kind of just trying to hit the highlights of it so it has some depth. And that's what we're really trying to create here, is a lot of depth. And it's just going to take some work, but we'll get there. Now here we're just adding in some of her very famous hair. She has almost like orange highlights. I want to say it's a reddish orange, so I'm going to go with like a I went with a Wild Rider red, to be honest with you, to see if we can fit that in, and that seems to be doing the trick so far. Again, these are just base things that we're doing, and then we're going to highlight and make it a little bit lighter and make it a little more realistic. There's some things that we want to fill in here and really just work on, but we're waiting for a few things to dry. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck this is. Is it green growth around it, or is it fire, or what? But I'm going to mess with it and see what I can come up with. And we're going to just keep on going. This is, we're getting there. We're getting there. There's a lot of areas that we're working on, but we're getting there. Right here, I'm just trying to get these bases squared away. As you can see, I really tried to lighten things up. I got his hair in there, and the problem is there's just no detail to the faces. They're like a shadow of the face of their faces. So when they said it looks like them, but there's not much detail, and you really can't put eyes or any kind of define any mouth structure. So it's kind of like painting on a blank canvas, and I don't want them to look like bug-eyed monsters. So next thing I want to do is I want to start to highlight and just bring out the rest of his body. These pieces here, I want to shine up the swords and the armbands, and of course the metal plate that goes across. And with her, I just put a little wash onto her structure here, and it's coming along just fine. We put a little scroll writing. I just don't know what to do with this, and I'm gonna have to just try to make something up as I go, but we'll definitely figure it out. We're gonna keep going here. Alright, I got some Necron dry compound. This is really good for bringing out metallics. I've already got a bunch of it on my brush here, and all I'm going to do is just, that's it. Just really make that metallic stuff really come out. And he's got this little sickle here. So we really want to kind of work that a little bit. There we go. Now all of a sudden it's standing out a bit, and we've got his little piece of metal that comes across here and connects all that right there, and that's what we want to do there. Now we're going to do the same thing with some of her things here. She's got like a little metal container here. I just want to make that sit up a little bit. There we go, and that really works. Alright, perfect. Now we're going to do the same thing with a gold compound, and we're going to do that as well. I'm going to go over this just again and make sure that we got it real good, and I'll show you what happens after we do the gold compound. Now I used a dry brush paint, Griffin Gold, and you can see how the gold now all of a sudden just sits up on this character, and that's exactly what we want. We filled in the gold here and really made that kind of pop out a bit. And I decided to go with a green viney type of staff. I think that really works with her the best. So we'll be back. I'm going to finish up some more highlights, and we'll finally take a look. Now we're just taking a little administrative gray, just thinning it out a little bit, and just going over these bases a little bit. Just giving a little depth to it, just very lightly all over the place. And that's just going to give that stone feel, just dry brushing over some of the edges here and just giving it just that little bit of a feel of stone. And that's all we want to do here, and we're just going nice and easy. So I'm going to finish that up and we'll come back. After that, I'm just touching up a little bit of purple that I missed a spot with. And just making sure that we got everything the way we want it. The detail on the face is really poor. So I kind of just left the faces with a wash, and hopefully the outline from the wash is enough. I mean, you could definitely tell by the facial structure that it's Dan, but to try to put eyes and a mouth on it would just ruin this miniature, and these were just difficult to begin with. Just to give you a quick thing of Cat and Dan real quick, and actually we'll just move this up a little bit. There we go. And we'll just zoom right in, and you know, there you go. I mean, from what it was to that is probably the best I could do with my particular skill level. I'm sure there's people that could take it a little bit further, but be honest with you, you know, we built the bases, we cleaned everything up the best we could, and we got it to that point where at least they got a couple of decent models out of it. And there you go. Wow, as you saw, that was quite a mess. Now, I got through it, got it fixed up, got it done, but the quality of that 3D printer wasn't that great. Even though you can see the features of Dan's face and Cat's face, they weren't very detailed, and you couldn't add a lot of things that I wanted to add. It was very hard, and then all that molding around it, and then when it melted in the aerosol, that was a cause for great concern. So I had to take great care with the figures themselves. We got it done. We didn't do too bad of a job. I hope Dan and Kat are happy with as far as we got it for them. But you know, the best thing I can say is we took an impossible situation and took care of it here on Color Your World. So I hope you guys see a couple things there and are a little leery when you decide to get miniatures from somebody that, well, basically uses a 3D printer. Not that they're bad, it's just sometimes be wary of companies trying to sell you something that is not of top quality. So, without further ado, from all the wonderful people here at Board Game Geek TV, it's your old pal Rob. We'll see you soon.